And if you're, well, we won't have microphones on, so we don't need to worry about that. And then at the very end, if you wouldn't mind making sure that we hang up. So I'm going to go over, Google Meet really quickly to make this space a little bit more functional this morning if you need some help. So right now you are viewing my screen. That's my icon picture right there. This is Google Meet. This is a Google Meet space. I have the screen up in probably a different layout than you do. But right now, if you don't see this white bar on the bottom, it tends to hide from you. So if you hover over down here on the bottom, this is how you can turn on your camera. So I'll turn mine on real quick. Hi, good morning. How are you? And then you can also turn off your camera this way. This is the microphone button, and if you click it, you'll be muted. If you are already muted and you don't remember doing that, that's because we do have a facilitator in our meeting who can have the ability to mute microphones. We cannot unmute microphones though, but we can mute them. Down here on the bottom bar, there are 3 dots for more options. I always like to share this for more options. Please do not touch either one of these. Don't touch those because we are recording this session and we are live streaming it. If you would like to change the layout right here, so if you, I'm going to show that one more time, down here on this white bar, and you go down here to these 3 dots, and you click on it, and you go to change layout. You can change the layout to sidebar. And that will give you an image of everybody on the side. You can change this to tiled. I'm going to change layout again. And that's the original version. But I am suggesting you please go to Spotlight View, and that'll shrink up all of the people on the side. That is just because when we are doing the Google Classroom webinar, there are a lot of different little icons and things on the bottom and the side of the screen. So you can see them a lot better if the videos of people who are in the Meet are sort of shrunken up, okay? The other thing is up here on this bar, if you've changed the layout, right here, there is the people button. Right next to this people button is this button right here that looks like a speech bubble. This speech bubble button right here, if you click on it, is the chat. And it looks like a lot of people have already found the chat. Please don't unmute your mics and then ask a question. We do try and hopefully have some time at the end. Google Classroom is kind of a beast, but so you're going to do it. It's going to be great. If you can please put all of your questions in the chat. We have 2 people running the chat right now and also trying to get resources and links and things to you through the chat. So to access that, once again, you just click on this little icon right here. You can type in a question right here. And then you hit the little send button. And then I would click off of that chat screen so that way you can see the screen again when someone is presenting. Okay, so that's just a very brief overview of Google Meet to help you out this morning to hopefully make that a little bit better for you. For people who are joining us, you don't necessarily need to worry about that, but we will have a resource for those people as well. So let's go ahead and get started with Google Classroom. The first thing that you're going to want to do is if you want to follow along with me for Google Classroom and build your own classroom, that's fine. You could possibly do 2 screens or a split screen, or you can just toggle back and forth between the Google Meets and then having a tab open for Google Classroom. So here's a trick for you to help out with that. Right now, my Google Meet is pinned to the top of my browser. And how you do that is you go to a tab, and this is if you're in Google Chrome, which I guess I should have said first, but we do prefer you to use your Google Chrome browser. Don't close out and get back in, because that might into the Meet. It doesn't look like we're tapped out today at 2:50, so you could possibly get back out and get back in today. There is a tab right here, and you're going to want to right-click on the tab in Google Chrome. When you right click it, there's the option to pin your tab. When you pin your tab, you can't accidentally close it and then lose where you're at. So I do always like to pin the Google Meet so that way I don't accidentally lose the Meet and close it. So that's pinning a tab. Right click and unpin it to get it back. So right click, pin, right click, unpin. Okay, so that's one way you can make this space a little bit more helpful for you to through a webinar as well. And you can give some tips and tricks on that if you are running Google Meets for some other different situations going on right now. I'm going to open a new tab. So you're going to see my screen right now. If you do not see my screen, you might have accidentally pinned someone to Google Meet. I'll go back and cover that really quick because we get that in the chat a lot. So if I go to people here and I accidentally click on somebody, it's going to pin them to my tab and I'm not going to see anything but them. If you just see someone's face in the very front of your screen, go ahead and hover over them and you'll see that push pin, unpin them, and you should be able to see the screen again. So just another little helpful hint right there. All right, let's actually get started now. I am going to go to google.com in a new tab. So in a new tab, everything that runs off of Google, the G Suite, runs off of the Chrome operating system. A little bit confusing sometimes because down here, this is my Chrome browser down here on the bottom. The Chrome browser is how Google has you search things. So if you've ever been in the Chrome browser and you're looking up sites and websites and things, that is the Google browser. The Google operating system is also called Chrome. So that is their system that has all of the different tools and everything that live in the cloud. So it's basically having a big hard drive set up in the cloud in outer space where you don't see things, but it's held there. So to do this, once you're in google.com, you're going to see a blue square right here if you've never signed in before. If you have signed in, just chill for a second so that way we can help some people who haven't done that yet. You're going to click the sign in button and you're going to sign in with your APS credentials. We have had some people during this time trying to create a brand new Google account thinking they have to create a new one. You do not need to create a new one. Your aps.edu is actually a Google domain. So you're going to want to sign into your Google account with the same credentials you use for your email. So there's mine, and then I would use the same password for my email. I'll sign in, and then your icon that you have for Google should show up right here. Most of you guys have already done that because I see that you have your icons and things up on the Google Meet. So if you are signed into Google and your Google account in Chrome, it should automatically sign you in to your Google Chrome browser. We'll give some help on that if you don't see that or you haven't done that yet. That does get a little bit confusing, but this is your Google Chrome browser. I am signed in with my account. You're going to want to sync. If it says sync is off, you're going to want to turn sync on. So when you click on that, it's going to give you a window like this. You're going to say turn it on. The reason you're going to want sync on is so that way Google Classroom can sync across all different devices. That means that if I sign in with my husband's computer, if I sign in with my daughter's computer, if I sign in with my computer, I will always have access to all of my files and things. You will also see these extensions start popping up here next to your address bar. These are pushed out extensions from the district. So there should be GoGuardian extensions as well as CoWriter and Snap and Read. Okay. Next to my face up here in the top are 3 dots. Those 3 dots let me know that I am updated with Chrome. If you constantly keep your computer open and you don't close out of web browsers, sometimes that can get out of date. So if you see a arrow over here, green arrow, yellow arrow, orange, or red, then that's going to say that your Chrome is out of date. All you have to do is click on that arrow, and then it will say update Chrome, and you can update Chrome. It will close out of everything and start it over, so I wouldn't suggest doing that now, but things will run more smoothly when you update Chrome over here. Okay? So understanding that, hopefully we're into your Google account right now. I'll give you a second if you're still trying to tackle that. I get it. And if you're just coming along to watch, then go ahead and watch, and we'll just be patient for a sec for people who may be trying to get in at the same time. Okay, once you're in to your Google account, there is going to be these 9 dots right here next to your icon. That is your Google app launcher. We call it the waffle because it kind of looks like a waffle that's been made. If you go down in your waffle, you should see Google Classroom. If you scroll down and you do not see Google Classroom, that's okay. It might be that you haven't used Google Classroom before and it hasn't been added to your Google Apps yet. I'll show you another way to get into Google Classroom in 1 minute. So if you click on Google Classroom, since you are signed into your Google account, it should pull up this screen right here that says Google Classroom. This space may be empty for you because you haven't created any Google Classrooms yet, but these are all the Google Classrooms that have been created. Okay, so that's one way to get into Google Classroom. I'm going to get out of that. Another way to get into Google Classroom is in the address bar. Up here, when you are in your Chrome browser and you still have to be signed in, is go to classroom.google.com. And when you're signed into your Google account, and you go to classroom.google.com, it's going to bring you right back to that space as well. And it should be added to your apps launcher in some space now that you've actually used that app. Okay, so I am now in Google Classroom. Google Classroom is a space where you can create classrooms, where you can communicate with students, share things with students, do things that you normally would kind of do in the classroom with students. And it's a space to keep that all organized. In Google Classroom, there are 2 different types of Google Classrooms. Right here is a teacher classroom. So I have created a teacher classroom, and I know that it's a teacher classroom because there is no icon right here, and it tells me how many students have enrolled in that classroom. I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to show you that I am a student in Miss Janae Minicucci's class. And I know that I'm a student in her class because there is an icon here on the Google Classroom, as well as my teacher's name. Okay, so this is the Google Classroom space. I'm going to do something throughout this training here in a moment, and I want to clarify what that looks like so we hopefully don't get lost. I have a theme on my browser which looks like trees in the background. So if you see up in the very top right corner trees, that is my teacher browser. I'm in as a teacher. So I'm going to slide the screen over here really quick. And when you see this very blue background, and it's really blue, and instead of seeing my icon, you see an E right here. This is my practice student. So we're going to have everybody get in today as a student so you can experience Google Classroom as a student and you can kind of play with things in there and everything. But I also wanted to show you that I will show you on the screen what the student view looks like as well if you'd like to just participate by watching. So when I move the screen over to blue, that's student. And when I'm in the black despair place over here, that's me as a teacher. So I'm over here with all of these different Google Classrooms. To create a Google Classroom, and I'll say probably not doing that at the moment. We usually do have teachers try and build a teacher classroom and come in as a student. I'd say probably stick to being a student today, and then you can watch this again to show how to do it as a teacher, just because we are limited on time. So up here on this plus sign, this is how you join or create a classroom. If you are a teacher, you're going to want to come into this space and go create a class. And then you can give your class a name. So let's say Math Notes Learning. And then you can have a section, you can have subjects. You can also have a room number, not like you really have a room. I guess I can put my living room, but that's cool. And you go to create. And it might take a little while because it is a big system to try and put together. Usually it's a little bit quicker than that, but so this has decided to make an awesomely pink classroom for me. This is, sorry, I'm going back. Did that work? It gave me a warning and I don't know why. Okay. over here is the Math Remote Learning Classroom that I just created. So it's going to give you a banner up on the top, and you can select your theme right here on the side. I'll do that one more time. I kind of did that fast. Up here in the banner, you go to select theme on the side, and you can pick any one of these themes here. So if I wanted to click this one, it's going to change the whole color scheme to dark and gray, kind of my mood. All right. And then if you go to upload a photo, you can actually upload your own photo to put into your Google Classroom if you wish. So this is what a Google Classroom looks like when you first create it, when you create a classroom. I'm going to go here and go back to classes because we have a classroom already created for this, this process for distance learning. So this, I'm going to go into one that's already made and has assignments and things in it. So this is my Google Classroom as a teacher. Up on the top, there are 3 tabs. There's the Stream tab, a Classwork tab, and a People tab. Okay, we're going to start here in People here in a moment. I'm going to slow down a little bit and let some people get into that create a classroom space if you want to try it, because I jumped the gun between 2 things. So if Janae or Letty would let me know if we're ready to move on to the people part.
Okay, Tina, if you would please, can you really quickly show where your Chrome browser, your image icon, if you click on that, some people are still trying to sync, make sure their sync is on, and can you just kind of hover over that sync? So how you went to just by clicking on your image icon. And of course, Tina has updated her profile. So she is on she clicked on her image icon, and there you can turn on or off your sync. Okay.
So
and okay, nice, Geraldine. I saw you got it. Good. And then also there was a question of whether or not once you create a Google Classroom, can you go in and rename your Google Classroom?
Yes, we'll go over that in a little bit.
Okay. And I think other than that, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to go, if you did name your Google Classroom and you don't like it, there is a settings icon up here. It's a gear for your Google Classroom. This is where you can make some changes to that first part I just filled out. So if you do have a Google Classroom and you want to change the name, you can change it right here and then select save. I don't have anything to save because I didn't change anything. So, okay, so I'm going to go back to people. This is where you're going to add teachers and where you're going to add students. I think Google Classroom is really kind of an interesting format or platform, just because I feel like it kind of goes from the right to the left more so than the left to the right. So I usually like to start to this furthest spot over here in people. If I want to add a co-teacher to a classroom, we are talking about distance learning right now. To make yourself or to make your lives a little bit easier, you may want to pull your grade level team together and create one classroom that's like 4th grade math. Or you might want to create a classroom that's all 5th grade something. So it kind of depends on how you want to manage this space. Remember that students have to go through this space on their own. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to set up things and have things together so students can get through this independently, okay? But one of the options is you can add a co-teacher. So in this space here, I'm going to invite teachers. And it is all tied into the APS Google domain. So this is why you want to be signed in with your Google APS account. And I'm going to type in Janae's name and Leticia's name, and you're going to notice that it automatically comes up with their icons that they have set up for their Gmail accounts because they are part of the APS domain. Same thing with students. If I know a student's number, I guess not all of them have 9777, but down here are all of these students that have that number on them. So you can add students that way, or well, not for the teacher part, but I'm just saying that's how you can look them up. So we're going to invite these 2 teachers. An invite has been sent to their email as well as when they log into classroom.google.com. Once they accept that invite, they will be co-teachers in my classroom. So now let's talk about how to add students. This is how you add students to a classroom. Right now, since we are doing remote learning, my advice is to enroll students with their Gmail accounts. This is very, very confusing, so I'm going to say this again. They are called Gmail accounts. They do not have Gmail. They do not have Gmail. Gmail is not turned on. So if you've been sending emails and messages to your students, they are not getting them. So if you are trying to email at the 97000@aps.edu, the Google Gmail is not turned on. However, students have a Google account. So they still can get into this app when they sign in. They sign in just the same way to their Google account, and they still have access to all of these tools, okay, including Google Classroom. So this is where it's a little bit confusing, is I'm calling them a Gmail account, but they do not have Gmail turned on. So I'm going to go here to invite students. My advice is to invite them with their email account. They do not have to go to their email to accept the invitation to the class. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. But you can add in a student by their name as well. So I know there's space. So you can add a student if you type in their name, and then you can just click on their image, and it will add it to the Google Classroom. So I am going to invite our fake student, ELS student 1 at aps.edu, and I'm going to invite the student to my class. Before my student has accepted my invitation, so you're going to see here, I've already invited ELS student 2 and 3. I am waiting for student 1 and student 3 to enroll in my classroom. I know that they're not enrolled because they're sort of grayed out, and they have the word invited right here, invited, next to their name. I have invited ELS student 2, and they've accepted because I see right here that it says invite guardians on this space right here. So I'm going to show you the student view really quick. So here I am as a student, and I'm already logged into Google over here, and I'm going to go to google.classroom.com. And now I'm going to see my classrooms as a student. And so you remember there's an icon right here. And then there's my teacher's name, Christina Nunez. And now I have a classroom that says join. So they did not need their email account to try and get into the classroom. They just have to go to classroom.google.com and they can join right here. And when the student joins the classroom, right here, in this space, this is their classroom view of that same classroom. So it's going to open up for them. To get back to all of the classrooms, you go to this hamburger up in this top left corner. We call it a hamburger because it kind of looks like a patty and a hamburger. And you click on it and you go to classes. Now, this is really important because we're going to have you guys get in as a student in a moment. If you don't want to be part of a classroom anymore, don't tell your students if they don't want to be part of your classroom, but I'm saying if you don't want to be in our classroom anymore, you go up to these 3 dots as a student in the student classroom. You click on the 3 dots in the corner and you go to unenroll. It will say, are you sure you want to unenroll in this class? And I will say, yep, I'm done. I want to unenroll. And when you unenroll, the class eventually will disappear and you will no longer be enrolled in that classroom. Okay, so that's one way to add people. I'm going to say that again. People, adding icon, typing in student emails. Okay, and students will need to join. Here is the other way to add students to a Google Classroom. That is through the classroom code. So to find your classroom code, you're going to want to go back up here in the top left of the screen to the Stream tab. In the Stream tab, it's going to have this really big banner for my classroom. I picked games because, you know, I'm playing a ridiculous amount of board games with my kids right now. If you go here to the class code, there's going to be this little display icon right here. If you click on that, it's going to display your classroom code. This is the classroom code that students are going to use to get into your Google Classroom. We're going to have you guys enroll with this classroom code if you want to participate as the class in one moment. Let me show you how to do that from a student's point of view. I'm going back to the student account. in classroom.google.com, and where we talked about creating a class, the only thing students can do is join a class. So when they click on that plus sign up in the top right corner, you click on the plus sign, join class. They're going to put in that classroom code right there, ICHY4CZ, and click the join button. When they click the join button, same thing that happened last time when they joined, that Google Classroom is going to pop right back up there. Okay, so this is how you have students join with a classroom code. During this time, I'm sort of suggesting to join with the Gmail account, so that way you can make sure everybody's in there, and it's a little bit easier to get to sign them in this way remotely than having it projected on the screen. But if you are in class and you want to continue using this next year, which we hope you will, then you can have them join with this classroom code. So I'm going to give you a moment if you would like to go to classroom.google.com. And if you would like to select the plus sign to join the class, and then if you want to just put in this code. Is there any questions since we're kind of doing a pause right now?
I think we're good.
Can you answer how to invite guardians and talk about that?
Yeah, I'm going to do that in a minute. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. So if you guys could put this code in the chat, and then if some people are a little bit behind, at least it'll be in there, and I'll move on to the next step. Okay. In the People tab, so I'm going back to the People tab, and I'm going to notice I have some people joining our classroom. Hi, welcome. Yay, huzzah. So we have a bunch of people who've joined our class now. In the People tab, where you have the Student section right here, I'm going to go over this little box first right here. This is how you perform certain actions with students. This button will not become active until you've selected a student. So sorry, Adriana, I'm not going to do anything or anything. But if you select a student and you go to Actions, this is how you will not be able to send an email to students because it's not turned on, but normally you could. You can remove a student here in this space right here. You can remove them. Now, I want to mute a student. It's not like on Google Meet where you mute right now for your mics to talk. It's not allowing students to have comments or to do replies in Google Classroom. So if in Google Classroom there's a student who's just being sassy or not saying nice things to other students, you can mute them and then they'll sort of disappear throughout all of Google Classroom, but you can unmute them as well. But this is how you remove students later. So I'm going to unmark Adriana. Next to the student's name is going to be Invite Guardians. So once again, it's going to pull up that screen to add in an email, but this is how you invite guardians to your Google Classroom. They do not need to have a Gmail account to get invited. The only thing that Invite Guardians does is it generates a guardian summary at the end of the week. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like. It's a guardian summary. So I'm going to make my husband my parent today. No, or not Adriana's parent today. But so if I wanted to add my husband, or I'm trying to find someone else with another Gmail account, it will work. It will work with other email accounts. It just ties it to your email. We are very, very, very much suggesting, please do not enroll a parent into your Google Classroom through this icon here. Do not invite a parent as a student. If you have a parent as a student, go in there and remove them, please. Okay, we're asking you not to enroll parents into Google Classroom because of COPA and FERPA regulations. We do not want them in a space where they have a lot of confidential information or things about other students in there. So don't enroll a parent into a Google Classroom. Invite them here as a guardian instead. Okay, that being said, I like to do this after. So here's Cassandra. Hi, Cassandra. You're helping me out today. I like to do this after I have students enroll in my classroom, because if you notice that an invite guardians symbol is missing, if this is missing right here after students have logged in with a classroom code, that means they did not use their @aps.edu account.
Okay, this means it was probably signed in for a personal account or maybe an account outside of APS, like a charter school or something, but this is not an at aps.edu account. So this is how I know that, is because the only people I can invite guardians to are people that are in our APS domain. Okay, so that's how you invite guardians. I'm going to go up here to this symbol right here, the gear icon. I'm going to scroll down to General, and this is how you turn on the Guardian summaries right here. These are Guardian summaries, and I'm going to go down here and go to See Example, and under See Example, this is what the Guardian summaries look like. They're not super detailed, but it will say this is the missing work for the week. Here's the work due for your child next week. Here's activity from last week. Now, this is really, really important because you're going to notice that this is tied to assignments, questions, and things that are going to be made in the classwork area of Google Classroom. So we're going to cover that in a moment, but this is the information that the parents will get for the Guardian email summaries. So I'm in this space. I do have Guardian email summaries turned on, so I'm just going to close out of that. So here we are. Janae has accepted my invitation to be a co-teacher, and I have all of my students added to Google Classroom. There is a little icon here where you can email a student, but like I said, the email isn't turned on, so that's what that space is for. So that is the People section of Google Classroom. We're going to move over to the Classwork section of Google Classroom, but I'll pause in case there's a few questions about the People section. Can you show real quick how to add a student again, please?
Okay. If I am here and I go to People tab and I go to the Add Invite Students icon right here, the plus, all I have to do is type in a student's name. Ryan Stewart is going to come up as our. And once you see the student's name with their number, this is a teacher, so you want to make sure that it has a number. But once you find your student, you click on them, and then you just click Invite. And that is how a student is invited. When they go to their screen, which is this one over here on the classes, they will have an icon down here that says Join Class. So that is how a student can be enrolled in a class right now. So I'm going to go to the Classwork tab. And now your Classwork section is probably going to look a little bit different than my Classwork section. This is how you are going to get assignments and stuff out to students. So I had previously set this up already with different topics. So if you see these big, large headers right here, these are called topics in Google Classroom. In this space of classwork, right here in classwork is where you're going to want to share all of the assignments with your students. The reason you're going to want to do this is it's easier for students to organize. It's easier for students to hand in. It pulls through Google Classroom to work through the Guardian summaries. I know that some teachers are like, it's easy just throwing stuff in the stream and putting a whole bunch of random stuff in there. My advice for sure, especially now, is do not put everything in the stream, please. Put it in classwork. It's easier for the students to find, especially when they're trying to do something independently, okay? We're also suggesting don't carbon copy your day. We're realizing that students are having a hard time with that right now. Some teachers who took that approach are now asking us for assistance on trying to not do that approach. And the reason that is because parents right now, they can't help their students during the normal classroom hours. They can't necessarily be there at certain times. So we're saying to sort of look at an asynchronous approach where if you want to show a lesson or provide a lesson, create a video, and you can link a video here in Google Classroom, and then later on save the meets in the meetings with students to maybe have a Q&A time or have a discussion or have a time where you can clarify some assignments or have the students
kind of connect with each other, but having like 4 Google Meets in a day during the time period and then handing them a worksheet through Google Classroom isn't necessarily working out as well as doing things that students can get to on their own time period. Okay, so that's one thing. So there are a few different ways that you can set up Google Classroom to help you out with that. Over here, there is a giant create button with the plus sign. I'm going to click on that. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, this is how you create a topic. So I'm going to select topic, and you're just going to create a topic. I have an assignment and I didn't, for writing, and I didn't have a writing section. So I can put writing right here if I wanted to. If you're wondering how we got the images on our topics, is I'm going to space out a little bit right here on the front. If you right click, you should have an emoji and symbols. If you have a Mac, it is control click or clicking with 2 fingers. And I'm going to go to emojis and symbols, and it should pull up emojis. If you do not have emojis right now, you might have your emoji keyboard turned off at the moment, and you might need to go into settings to set that up. But I do have mine on, so if you do have it on, you can add an image right there, and you can click add. That just helps organize things a little bit more. Okay, so now I have a writing topic. Everything that is here that has all of these little circles on it right here are assignments. So you can put assignments underneath topics. Now, there are a few ways you might consider organizing your Google Classrooms right now. This is organized by topics, but all of the labels are very consistent. There's consistent labeling going on here. This way, students can find activities easier. This is for an elementary school that has all of the different subjects. So my advice is to put the date that you post the assignment, not the date that it's due, but the post date. Okay, so put the date that you posted an assignment, put what subject it's for, and then put what task it goes in, what order students should complete things. The reason that I'm saying to do this is because when students are trying to find things on their own, it makes it a lot easier for them to go in a specific chronological order with things and getting one task done almost like off of a task list. Another way to organize a Google Classroom, we have a couple different ways set up. I think you can hand out an assignment each day. This can get a little overwhelming, but if you are a teacher who wants to just, in an elementary school, and you say, okay, Monday there's only 1 or 2 tasks that you need to complete, you can have a topic that is just the date, makes it a lot easier for students to find their assignments, okay? If you are in a middle school classroom and you have one topic, you might want to create a topic, or one subject, sorry, you might want to create a topic that it's for the entire week. So then it's easier for students to find all of the things they need to do for this week. I would advise against putting due dates at the end of the day. Give students time whenever they can get to it to complete assignments. I would say I'd probably, if I did want to create a due date, if I did want to create a due date, I would probably create a due date that is on a Friday, just so I can check into everybody's work and just to see how they're doing. But I wouldn't create like super consistent or super rigorous due dates. When you're in this space with topics and with assignments, you can pick them up by holding a hold click and then moving it with your mouse. So I'm going to pick up this writing one and move it here underneath writing. If you have a topic, you can pick up a topic and all the assignments underneath it, and you can reorder that on the screen as well. Okay, so this is how you can organize some of the topics in Google Classroom. Those are those overall large headers. Any questions about that? If you want to, sorry, I didn't give a lot of time for that, but if you want to rename or delete a topic, it's these 3 dots here on the side.
Can you please repeat how we can put the assignments in?
I'll show you one way. You can drag it. So if I had this up Okay, if I had this down here, you can just pick it up and drag it under a topic, and then you can select it when you create an assignment. So we'll go over creating assignments in a minute. So this is topics. Now let's talk about assignments. Assignments, and it's kind of strange that they call it assignments, but yet there's like 4 different types of them. When I click create, I have 4 different ways I can create an assignment. There is assignment, a quiz, a question, or material. Once again, you normally work from top to bottom. We're going to work from bottom to top because it's a little bit easier to wrap your mind around, a little bit easier format to one that's a little more complicated. So material is when you create something for students you just want them to see. Material is a link. It's an article. Maybe you created a video and you want the students to look at the video and the link through material. Material is where you would put it. A question. Question can be used like a discussion board where students just answer something. Students can sort of have a polling system. You ask one question to students, but students can reply to each other. You ask the question right in the space that is that part. Quiz assignments, we're not going to go over quiz assignments as much. We're going to have a Google Forms webinar on Friday. We understand everyone's off on Friday. We were just trying to get things together for this last week when we knew people had time. Don't worry, this webinar and all our other webinars will be recorded. And so even if we have to have a webinar with ourselves, woohoo, we will record it to have forms. But this is on the quiz assignment where you can add a Google form. That is their platform for automatically graded assessments. So we're not going to get into that as much today because that is kind of the next level, and we're sort of asking teachers to kind of focus on giving more projects and things. If you do want to know more about forms, you can, there will be a video on that later. Here is assignments, and that is where you want to create an assignment that has a document or something included with it that students need to turn in. So we're going to go down here. That might have seemed like a lot, but we're going to go over one at a time. On material, it's got this little bookmark on it here. I'm going to click on material. When I select material, it's going to give me this space to build material. It has a menu on the right side that has who the assignment is for and what the topic it would fall underneath. You put a title for your material, and then this is where you would add a description. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time creating one while you're on a webinar with me. So instead, what we have done is created a activity already that's made, so that way you can see it. So this is a material that's already made. If you ever want to go back to an assignment that you have created, there's 3 dots here on the right. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to edit my assignment. And so this is an example of a material assignment. Once again, for the title, I would suggest putting the date that you posted the assignment. It's not necessarily the date that it's due, but possibly something that says when you posted it. If you are in elementary, what subject it's for, especially if you're going to hand out these assignments weekly, okay? And then this one is going to be a daily assignment because I want students to just get on there for like 15 to 20 minutes a day. This is playing a game online. So my other advice is, since students are trying to maneuver this space on their own, is in this description area right here where it says description, I would put in descriptions in order. So I would say step 1, log into Prodigy Math. Step 2, do this for this amount of time. Step 3, so just noticing that it's very step oriented. It's kind of mapped out, but then it's got enough information where you can do things, but not too much information where students get lost in it. So you kind of have to figure out what grade level your students are at and what they can handle. You can put a link to video instructions if you would like. But down here in material, all of the assignments in Google Classroom can be added from Google Drive that you've already created. You can create a link. That is a link to a site. You can attach a file, or you can find a YouTube video. Khan Academy has a ton of YouTube videos that are available on their site. and they are tied up with YouTube links. You can also create something straight out of Google Classroom in any of the Google Classroom platforms, which is Docs, Slides, Sheets, Drawings, or Forms. In this case, I found the link to the Prodigy game, and all I did was I went to add link, and then I typed in what that website was, and I would add that link. If you do have a Google Meet and you wanted to add in the Meet code, you can add that link in here and add the link here if you wanted to add that through Google Classroom. So I would suggest doing that in Material. Over here on the side, anytime it says for, so if it says for right here as Material, you can link this to all of your students, or I can uncheck everybody and only pick specific students to send an activity to. This is really helpful if you're trying to differentiate instruction, or if you want to co-teach with a teacher who has pullouts or is a resource teacher for you. Say, hey, I'm going to make you a co-teacher in my Google Classroom. Let's tag team and come up with some activities that can be differentiated for students. On the topics, these are all the topics I have created. This is kind of why I like to have the little emojis so it's easier for me to see really quick. This is a math activity. Once I've done this, I'm going to select Save. Now my assignment is saved underneath the math topic right here in Google Classroom. I'm going to go as a student to Google Classroom really quick. And in Classwork, if you've enrolled in Classwork with us, you go down to math activities. You're going to notice that this is grayed out as a student. Anytime something is grayed out as a student, that means they have either turned it in or it is material, because there's nothing to turn in. It's only a link or something somewhere. So this is material for students. So this is Google Classroom materials. While you're playing with materials, I'm going to offer another suggestion here for you. For Google Classroom, if you would like to create sort of an agenda, almost like a syllabus that we used to have for activities for the week, we realize that's been helpful. So in this case up here, and if you want to look at it later, this is created in Google Docs. So I'm going to go to the material here in Google Docs. I'm going to go to View Material. And in this material, so as the teacher, I'm viewing it. If I go in here, I created this in Google Docs, and it has a list of all the activities to be done for the week. The reason that I created this is that you can also share or create a folder and share that link with parents, so they have this paper as well. Okay, and if you need help on that, you can email edtech@aps.edu on how to share a link to a folder. But if you want to have a list of materials here, the reason I liked to make this in Google Docs is because in Google Docs, there is a tools button right here, a tools button that can translate the document. Okay, I'm going to do that again. In Google Docs, go to Tools, Translate Document, and I can choose the language for the paper to be translated. I would not suggest, or I would actually hopefully create a disclaimer for parents and say, look, this is not perfect. It is not done through translation services. It is a computer generated translation, so it won't be perfect. I apologize, but I really want you to get a general idea of what we're doing with the students today, so that way hopefully you can help out with some things. So I just picked Spanish, and so it's created an entire copy of this paper that is translated. So that is one other way that you can use Google Classroom with the materials, is to create a Google Doc with information that can be translated for parents. Okay, so I'm back in Classwork. That was materials in Google Classroom. I'm going to go back up to Create, and we're going to do a different type of assignment this time. So I did material. We're going to go up to Question. On Question, there is a question mark here on this little icon. So this time I'm going to create or select the question option, and you're going to notice that this build space right here looks a little bit different. Last time it said materials, this time it says question. You're going to want to ask a question in this space. I usually do this a little bit differently where I create the question as a title instead, and then I put the question in the instruction space, so that way the title matches all the rest of the options in Google Classroom. I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to find a question we already created. If you notice on my question, I have it grayed out right now, and that's because I've created this as a draft. So I'm going to go over that right now. I'm going to edit the assignment I already created that's a question. So I kept the same title where I put the post date. It's for reading, and it's the 4th task I want students to work on this week. And it is a YouTube video discussion. In questions, you can have a short answer or you can have multiple choice answers. I said the theme of our last reading unit was overcoming challenges, so I want you to watch the video, answer these questions, submit your answer, and then respond to one other student. So this is where I put more of the instructions and the question in this space, and I try and keep this to where it matches the titles. It's up to you, but I just find students find it a little bit easier. Down here, I have added a YouTube video. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now for YouTube video. I think someone's mic's on, I'm not sure, but if I go to add and I go to YouTube, it's going to pull YouTube straight from Google, because YouTube, I don't know if you know that YouTube and Google are in cahoots, and I think YouTube's trying to take over the world, but maybe Google, I'm not sure. That they are partnered together. So since Google and YouTube are in conjunction with each other, you can look up videos straight from YouTube. YouTube just started filtering out videos that are safe for students. So they are trying to tie that into Google Classroom, where they are student approved videos. I don't think they've fully rolled that out yet, but they are definitely making that connection. So if I put that video, Beating the Odds, I really hope nothing random comes up. Right here, 6 stories that prove anything is possible. It will pull up straight through here. I can scroll down and look for some of the YouTube videos, and I will select what video I want, and I will go add. And, well, it won't let me, but when I add it, it's going to show up just like this. So students can click on the YouTube video and watch it and then respond to it. Okay, so this is how you add a YouTube video. I would please, please, please suggest that you watch it first, because even though it seems like they're approved for students, there are some people who are being sneaky and adding something inappropriate or something crazy at the end of a video. So just really watch it before you add it to a classroom, please. So over here, I have a few more options. Since this is a question, it's not just to read or watch like a material, I can grade this. I'm going to keep this as ungraded. You can put it in as points. Once I put in points, this drop down will allow me to make it ungraded. So that's how you change it to ungraded. If you notice, it's constantly saving up here on its own. You don't have to save anything. This is for my APS 3 classroom. These are all the classrooms I have, so I can assign this to more than one classroom at a time. So if you have various classrooms, but you only want to create one assignment, you can share it to a multitude of classrooms. The other thing is students. I can change students right here, and I can uncheck students, and I can pick specific students I want to assign this assignment to, okay? Now, this is how you change the due date. I would suggest not having a crazy due date for students right now. Maybe like I said, on a Friday or something, just to double check everything. But this is how you would schedule a due date. The topic is a reading activity. And this is the important part for questions. If you ask a multiple choice question, it will give you the options to put the multiple choice questions in here. Students can see a summary of all the answers, but I really want students to be able to respond to each other like a discussion board. So students can reply to each other, and students, I'm not going to have you edit your answer afterwards, but you can reply to each other. So up here in this space, there is a drop down. I can ask the question right now. I can schedule this to actually be scheduled in the students' activities at a different time. That's different than the due date. This is when the the assignment gets posted. So if you want to make lessons for the whole month and you only want them to post on like the Monday of each week, you can do that and schedule it. Or you can save it as a draft, which is what I had done before, so I can come back in and edit it before it's live for students. So now that I've done this and I've edited it, I'm going to select Ask, and I'm going to say, yes, I want that in the student stream. And you're going to see in the student part that there's going to be a YouTube question. In a moment, I think I have to refresh my screen. But there's going to be a YouTube question that you can answer. So if you are you enrolled in our classroom, you can go here right now and you can go to the YouTube Unit 4 Task 4, please. And we're going to play with that real quick as a student. In the student's view, it's going to drop it down and you're going to go to View Question. In View Question, this is where students are going to type their answer here on the right. Class comments are different. Students do get confused on this sometimes. Say, I don't want you to put in a comment. I want you to type in your answer. So what are some challenges you faced this week? My mom had her last round of chemo and feels bad. I can't see her. Okay. I'm going to type that out and I'm going to turn it in as a student. So remember, I'm in as a student right now. So if you're in here with me, you can turn in something right now for that YouTube video discussion. I'd advise you not to watch YouTube right now. It's 6 minutes. But once you turn it in, you're going to see this cute little happy face right here. And I can go and see my classmates' answers. So I see that Arlene has said technology. And I can reply to her as the other student and say, me too. And I can reply. So this is how you can create sort of a makeshift discussion board about certain things where you can have classmates answer each other and put information for each other in through Google Classroom. Okay, so as a student, I'm replying. I'm going to go back to the teacher. If you're looking into that student space, that's fine. But if you look at the teacher section where it says YouTube, I notice that I have a comment right here. And I go, ooh, one of the students has left a comment. I see that I've assigned this to 67 students and 9 students have turned it in. Okay, so this is in the teacher view. When I'm in my assignment as the teacher view in question, I go down to View Question right here. And I can see in this space right here what my question was. And I can also see all of the student answers right here. I see that all of these students have answered the question. That's great. As a teacher, I can reply to students as well. This video made me cry, like seriously. I don't know why it did that. That was weird. So I can go ahead and type in a response as a teacher. And when I type it in, I can select post, and then it'll go through the students and everyone else. So on the left, I can see the students who have turned in the assignment, and I can also see the students who haven't turned in the assignment yet. Up here on the top, I can sort as well. I can sort by only students who've turned it in, and I can sort by students who had it assigned to them, or I can sort by all of the different students. Okay, so this is the space for teachers for a question. I'm going to go back to Classwork as a teacher, and we're going to talk about the last one I'm going to go over today. This is going to be a little bit different. Quizzes, like I said, it automatically creates a Google form for you. Unless you're pretty good at Google Forms, I'd wait on that one. But you can email us at edtech@aps.edu. We will have a Google Forms on Friday, and we can help you out with that. And then I can also make a screencast for that one. But on assignments, we're going to go to assignments now on the very top. This is the one that is a little bit more complicated, but I think it really has a great platform for getting things to and back from students. Okay. So when I create an assignment, you're going to notice there is an entirely new different board that has a few more things here on the bottom. But the most important part is it's going to look different down here on the add section. So once again, I'm going to get out of that. and I want to go to one that was already created right here. So that way it already has everything all set up. So I'm going to go here to these 3 dots, possibly. Come on, computer. It's running a little bit slow. Okay. And I'm going to go to Edit. And in Edit, right here, I'm going to have students work on a journal entry. I want them to fill out the journal entry each day. Make sure they fill out an entry, and on Friday, they're going to turn it in. So these sidebars right here, I'm not going to go over them again because they're all the same, but you can create a rubric here. It's not a super fancy rubric, and it is kind of the next level of Google Classroom. So if you need help with that, we'll also talk about it. Originality reports are coming next year with the Google Enterprise level. So that is for students to run a check of their written papers to see if they have plagiarized anything. You can run it, they can run it, and they can tell how much of their paper has been plagiarized from anything off of the internet. So that's kind of neat. We can go over that later, but I'm not going to go over that right now. So if you want to stay later or ask me later, we can do that. Over here, when I've created an assignment, the add button is the most important thing. Okay. I'm going to add something from my Google Drive where I created a template already that is a Google Journal template. And what I mean by that is normally it pulls up recent, but apparently it's not that recent. So over here, I've created in a Google Doc a template that has all of the different sections on it that is my journal entry. So when I select that out of my drive and go to add, and you would normally hit add, it's going to pull up just like this. Now, when you have an assignment, this is the most important thing, and this is the thing I think is the coolest out of Google Classroom. Students can view the file. When students view the file, it's almost like having material where they can just look at it. I wouldn't advise using that option in assignment unless you have more than one, you can add more than one thing down here. So like read this entry first and then fill out the worksheet. Underneath it, students can edit a file. This gets confusing because this does not mean students can one student can edit it. This means there is one file that all students can edit. So if you assign a PowerPoint presentation or a slide deck, I would advise a slide deck through Google, but a slide deck where each student has a different slide, every single student has a different one, then every single student is in that same file. They work on their slide and then they all turn it in together. It's one thing all together. Okay, the last option is making a copy for each and every student. You do not need to make a copy for each and every student. Google Classroom will do that for you. It will hand off a copy to one student, a copy to another student. So I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, so this is making a copy for each student. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to assign this. Okay, so now that I've assigned this journal entry, and this is Unit 4, Task 2. I'm going to swipe over again as a student. I'm going to go back to APS Learning Classroom and go to Classwork again as a student. And I'm going to look for Unit 4, Task 2. I'm going to refresh that real quick. When I am in as a student, over here on the bottom, that's live, I'm going to select this one and I'm going to go down to view assignment. Now, some students get in the habit here of clicking right here, and that's okay, but I'm going to show you if I go to view assignment, how it looks a little bit different. In view assignment, the rubric shows up on the bottom and the assignment is over here on the side. I want to show you view assignment because some teachers were confused about how students can add an image or add a photo. It's through this part right here, this add assignment. I can add or create, and I can pull anything as a student from my drive, my link, or my files. To add in pictures, my daughter has the Google Classroom app on a phone. She's the upper middle school, but on her phone, and she can take a picture straight from her phone right through here with the Google Classroom app. Okay. Now, up here is where you're going to click on the assignment. It's going to pull up in Google Docs for me. And what you're going to notice is it's already named my name. So here in Google Classroom, this document is named ELS Student 1, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of cool, but it already made, this is my copy. Anything I do on this form or this doc is only mine. So if I say, what is something you did today that was outside? I went and rode a bike. Over here, what is something you have done with your family this week? We played Monopoly and my dad destroyed us, which is kind of true. My husband monopolized the whole game. Can't play with him anymore. All right. So this is right here, me answering the questions. If I feel good about this and I go, okay, I've answered it all of it, then I'm going to go over here to turn in. And I'm going to select turn in straight from this place right here. You can do this for sheets, docs, slides. I know I'm forgetting one, but I'm going to go ahead and go to turn in. And it's going to take me back to that classroom screen. And it's going to say, are you absolutely sure you're going to want to turn this in? And I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to turn that in. Let's do this. And so I'm going to turn it in. And this is from the student's point of view. It's going to change to turn in here. And it will give me the option to unsubmit. So if I do it and I go, oh, I didn't read the directions all the way, or oh, I messed up, I can unsubmit my lesson. I'm going to leave that because apparently it's frozen. Now, as a teacher, if I go here to the journal entry and I'm going to say, I wonder how my students are doing, and I click on it, I'm going to see that 74 students have it assigned to them and 1 student has turned it in. So if you want to play with that, you can and turn it in. But I want to show you what it looks like from the teacher's point of view. As a teacher, I can see that one of my students has turned this in. I see that these other students haven't turned it in quite yet. And I can view all of the documents here. This is, I don't know if I say your name right, but Yeredi and Leanne, I can see each of them have their own individual journals. So they each have their own, and every single one of them gets turned into me. I don't have to make a copy for each student like on a copy machine or make one for each of them and hand it off to them. Google Classroom automatically does that. Over here, I'm going to go back to a student. This is where I can unsubmit it, but now you can see that it's turned in. Okay. In this space where I have instructions and student work, I can click. I'm running a little slow, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to close a couple things here real quick. Just to make things run a little bit faster, hopefully. Yeah. So over here, I can select this student. Just double click on their, there you go. Double click on their icon themselves. And when I double click on that, I'm going to pull up that student's journal entry. So I was in here as my sample student. That was ELS student 1. And it said, I went and rode my bike. We played Monopoly and my dad destroyed, I forgot to say my dad destroyed us, but he destroyed something. And so over here, this is how you can respond back to students. Up on the top here, you can add grades. You can grade straight from the rubric here on the right. And you can even private comments to students, and that will go through Google Classroom. But in the document itself, if you're in Google Docs, Sheets, if you are in Slides, you can actually highlight any part of a document or any part of the slide or anything. And if I say, ooh, this student rode their bike, I'm going to highlight it. And up here in the toolbar, right here, it's kind of hard to see, but it's up here, over here. It looks like this icon right here. I'm going to add a comment. When I add a comment, I'm going to shrink this bar up here so you can see it a little bit better. And because I shrunk it, I lost the comment space. There it goes. Over here, it's going to have my icon as a teacher, and I can respond back to the student and say, my kids rode bikes too. Just so you can make that connection with students. This is also a great way to provide feedback. I'm going to go to comment again. Or when I highlight in a doc, it will create a comment button right next to it automatically. So I'm going to go to add comment, and I'm going to say, oh no, what did Dad destroy? Question mark. And I'm going to add the comment. I'm hoping my computer doesn't crash here in a minute because this is the slowest it's been. Come on, you. And this is how students can look at, or you can give comments to students' assignments. As a student, they can go back into their assignment and I can return it and say, hey, respond to my comments. Or it's live in their account right now where they can get on and they can reply back to me with questions or anything that was said. So this is a great way to add comments. Now, one of the things that Google Classroom has is a comment bank. So down here on this little icon that looks like a bubble, if I go to comment bank, and I'm going to pull this out again, you can add a comment to the comment bank where I say, you forgot to answer this one. And I don't want to keep writing that over and over and over again. You forgot to answer this one. This is how you get to the comment bank, is I add a comment just like before, but this time I start with the hashtag. That's Shift 3, and I start with the first letter of whatever my comment bank has on it, and it will pull it up to where I can just, here they are, right here. I can pull it up. You forgot to answer that problem, or you forgot to answer this one, and I'm going to hit comment. Okay, so once again, that is hashtag, whatever the first letter is. Oops, you forgot to answer this one. I can select it and hit comment, and that's how you can use the comment bank in an assignment for Google Classroom. Now, up here, I am ELS student 1, and these are the arrows where you can scroll through students right from this space. So I'm going to go to the next one to Erin. Erin will forgive me if I put this up at first. So I have Erin's up here, and I can see what she turned in, and I can respond back to her. So if I put a comment on hers and say, what did you do? Then it will only go to her on her paper. So this is how I can scroll through students, is right through here. I can look at everyone's assignment. Now, I can see that this was assigned but not turned in. So I can see everyone's assignments even if it's not turned in. I can look at progress. I can see how students are doing. I can do that all through this space. Okay, so it does open up a new tab. So I have a tab here and I have my classroom here. So I'm going to close out of this tab. And over here, I can see all of the students who've turned it in, and I can see all the students it's assigned to. Now, the reason that we say enroll in our Google Classroom is feel free to make a copy of any of these, put them in your drive, work through some of the assignments so you can be familiar with that space is what the students are going to look at. Go for it. Please do that. We'll keep you enrolled unless you want to unenroll. So now that's the classwork piece in a nutshell. Okay, so this is all of the different sort of classes here in, or classwork sections in Google Classroom. The last thing we're going to go over is Stream, and then we'll go over a couple more tips and tricks for you guys. Stream. Stream will put every single assignment that you created here. So every assignment I made is going to be here, which means that if students put comments or anything here in the stream, it's going to get lost. It's not organized, it's not by topic, it's not in order. So my advice is to save the stream where students can talk to each other. Hey, did you need help with that vocab assignment? And they can post something. It's almost like a Facebook stream almost. Like, hey, how's it going? And then students can click on it and they can add a comment. So I'm just gonna make a comment here for everyone. How is Google Classroom doing so far? Don't worry, there's a video. Okay, and I can post this. I can also add something to this stream. I would advise you not to put assignments in the stream, and here's why. Okay, I'm going to go back to the student view. And I'm going to go over here, back to my classroom as a student. And in this stream, I can respond back to Mrs. Nunez and say, I'm doing okay. All right, and I can reply to it. If you guys are in our Google Classroom, you can go to Stream, and you can try and answer some questions now here. I'm going to take questions here in a second for classroom versus stream, but here is why I'd advise you not to put assignments in stream is number one, it doesn't get generated in the Guardian summaries. Number two, students can go here to this hamburger icon as well, and they have a to-do list. So they go to the hamburger to-do, and they can look at every single classroom they have and every single assignment that they have to turn in. My daughter loves this as a middle school student because she has 4 different classrooms, but she can work through every assignment here. This is why I also say, please label it with what day you had posted it, what task you do first, and then how to get it completed. So if my daughter wants to work through the to-do space, she can get it all done here, and it's almost like a checklist. Because once she does an activity and she turns it in, it will get moved over here to the done side. So here's all the activities that have been turned in. So it helps her manage that space a little bit more because she's like, I had this to do, it's turned in. I had this to do, it's turned in. Okay. The other thing is, as a student, I'm going to go back to classwork. And if you noticed, I turned in my YouTube activity and I turned in my journal activity. And so I noticed that those activities are grayed out. So any active activity that I have that I haven't turned in is colored, and anything that I haven't turned in is grayed out. Okay? Now, as a teacher, you might say, hold up. If I'm in classwork right here, how do I know who turned in everything? Right here. If you click on individual ones, you can see how many people it was assigned to and how many people still need to turn it in. There it goes. So I have 62 assigned and 16 turned in. If you want, you also have a to-do list. So as a teacher, I'm going to go up to the hamburger and go to the to-do list. And I can see all the activities for all the classrooms I've created. So I'm going to scroll down here and say, okay, I have 53 students I've assigned this to. No one's turned it in. I'm going to look at that one a little later. But, ooh, there's this one where I have 35 assigned and 18 have turned in. I'm going to check this activity and see how students are doing with it. Okay, so this is where I say that making sure that labeling of the assignments comes in handy, because it also helps you out to go, wait, what class was that for? Oh, that was reading task 2. Oh, wait, that was from unit 4. So it's a little bit easier for you to manage that space. Okay, now 2 things that are going to make you very happy with me right now. Number 1, if you don't want all of this stuff here on the assignments popping up right here, you can turn that off. And you can save the stream for sort of a classroom discussion space. To do that, top up here on this icon for the gear. Sorry, I'm speeding up a little because I want to give you some time to ask something. But the gear icon. Come on, gear icon. If I scroll down from the gear icon for settings, there are 2 settings you're going to want to look at. Stream, right here, the stream button. You can have students post and comment. Sometimes you might want to start out where only teachers can comment and then students can comment over time and then they can post and comment. Right now, I would suggest you to let students post and comment. Let them talk to each other. Let them help each other out. Set up a situation where students can help each other through stream, okay? If a student is misbehaving and didn't do something correctly, you can mute them from before where I showed you students, and I'll show you how you can mute them on the stream as well. Classwork on the stream. This is how you turn off all of those notifications for every assignment. I'm going to drop down this menu and I'm going to hide a notification. I'm going to say that again. Classwork on the stream. Hide those notifications, and I'm going to select Save. And in this space right here, you're going to notice all the assignments are gone and all we have are class discussions. Okay, I'm going to try and find my, I don't think I responded as ELS student right now, but I'm going to, Shalina, I'm going to pick on you for 1 second, but let's say she put something inappropriate. If I go to these 3 dots right next to her and I click on them, I can mute her. So that means I can see what she's put, but no one else can see it. I might have a conversation with her. I can send an email to her parents and be like, look, we have to have a conversation of how she's acting on Google Drive. Not like you're being bad on Google Classroom. I mean, and then I can unmute her and say, okay, you get another chance. But that was, that is how you can hide those notifications in this space. Okay, so stream, putting sort of a stream of thought. It's kind of going down a river, okay? Classwork, where you can put assignments that can be scheduled for students. They are organized by topic. You have material, which is only looking at one thing. You have questions where students can respond to a question and respond to each other like a discussion board, or you can sort of take polls or get information like that. An assignment is where students can have an assignment where it is actually assigned to them and where it's turned in. You can assign other things than a Google Doc. So there is one in here, I think this one, the plot and theme, actually has the Google slide deck that has a lesson students can work through on their own. It has videos where they can practice through the slide deck, and the very last slide is one that they have to fill out that you could grade or look at. So if you want to look at that right here, that is Unit 4, Task 3. Make a copy of it, have it if you want, but it doesn't have to be just a doc. One last thing as a teacher, I would suggest is going over here to this hamburger again and scrolling all the way down to settings. So I'm going to go all the way down past all my classrooms, and I'm going to go to settings right here. In settings, you will get an email every single time a student posts something, puts something, adds something. It's going to get insane, okay? When this email is turned on, which it automatically default is, you're going to get an email every time a student comments, when students are enrolled, when you're teaching something. You will get a notification for every single class you have. So you can go through this space and toggle off or on what you want to receive and what you don't want to receive. I usually will receive email notifications or private comments, just private comments. And over here, you could just turn them all off if you don't want any of them. Right now, since we're doing so many meets with classes, I've kind of just turned them off for the moment. So that is the classwork and the stream part of Google Classroom. I know that was a lot. I'll try and answer some questions. We do have like 7 minutes. I can either answer that if there's a lot of questions, or I can go back and show you how to archive and get rid of a classroom in case you want to get rid of one, and then I can take some questions. I just want to get a feel for how we're doing because I can't really see that space.
Tina, can you show, there was a couple questions, if they had a, sorry, when I got kicked off, I'm not sure if I missed it. They wanted to take what was posted in the stream and reuse it and create it as an assignment. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because they can't, but they could grab the information and edit it.
Right. You can pull it off and sort of copy it and then recreate it in the stream, or the classwork, I'm sorry. I haven't found any way to do that. There is a new feature, and I can talk about how to do a Google Meet too, because that was a question for some people. Classwork right here, I can go to create, and I can reuse a post I have from another class, but it doesn't pull off the stream. It pulls off of assignments. So I'd say that is a little bit tricky. I'd probably say I'd kind of recreate it really quick. The good news is that if you do create an assignment, you've created an assignment this way, if you ever make a copy of your class for the next year, you can copy classes. It will copy every single assignment for you in draft mode, and it will kick all the students out. And so you can go back and just reuse your assignments and reuse them that way. So that is kind of another perk of classwork. But if you have already put them in the stream, I kind of say copy the information and throw it back off into the classwork section. So that is kind of a thing there. If you do have classes, I'll go over how to get rid of a class real quick, and then we can talk about Google Meet and some something else if you want. If I have classrooms and there's one I don't want anymore, like this math remote learning one I made today, if you go to the 3 dots on the side, I can archive a class. That means it'll be out of my space. I don't want it there, but it will still exist. So if I go, oh, that was an archive class, I didn't want to archive it, then you can pull it out. But up here on the hamburger, if you do want to permanently delete a class, down here on the bottom right above settings, there's archived classes. And when you go in there, you can find a classroom that you really want to delete. You can go to that button and permanently delete it. But that is how you delete a classroom. These are the same buttons that students will push. They will not be allowed to delete a class, but if they click on those 3 buttons, that's how they unenroll from a class. Students have tended to try and get around the system and go, I never got in the class, miss. And then I'll be like, no, you got in the class, I'm re-enrolling you, because sometimes they'll unenroll like on purpose because they're silly like that.
Can you show how to reuse a post in, or if you have one classroom that you're collaborating in and you guys want to, in their building assignments, how they can add it to other classrooms?
Okay. So if I have classwork and I want to keep my own individual classroom, so let's say, or the way I would do this is I would say I have this classroom, and since Janae is a co-teacher with me, I will have access to her classroom and she can have access to mine. So if I create an assignment, we don't necessarily have to put everything in the class together, but when I go to create and I go to reuse post, sorry, it went kind of slow. If I go back, this back button right here, sorry, I didn't show that last time. I'm going to go to the back to all classes. I can select a class. So over here, if you notice, these are a lot of classrooms I've made, but this is one that Janae has made. So if I go over here to this class, I can reuse any of these assignments, even though I wasn't the one who created it. So if you have a co-teacher in a class, you can select from that class. You can click it and you can reuse that assignment in my own class. So if I go to reuse, it might take a minute. It's going to be up here in draft mode, and I can go over here to the assignment and I can edit it. Sorry, it's freaking out. I can go to this assignment and I can edit it, and I can assign it to my own class. So this is how you can share assignments with each other. Is if you become, just make sure that you're that when you're creating assignments that you sort of double check things and make sure that they work for your students and how they're set up for your students. Any other questions?
Yeah, so there's been a couple questions about how you're going back and forth, because some of them want to be able to show show their students live that you're in a teacher's classroom and then you're in a student's classroom. So if you could talk to them about how that is possible. I'm
like,
well, so
student. I'm like, we need a fake student.
We do need a fake student. But the thing is, so if you have a personal Gmail account, you could sign into your own class. Excuse me, I lost my voice. You could sign into your own class with your own personal account. That way you know it's just you, that it's not a parent coming in. And then that's how you could model to your students what they would see. So that way you're keeping it safe and you know it's you. So if Tina were to add me as a student,
I was trying to show, I toggle between 2 screens on a Mac.
Yeah.
On a PC, I think it's like Control Tab or something, but it doesn't have to be a separate screen. I do a separate screen to help me out, but you could have it on 2 tabs. Like here's my teacher tab and then have a student tab if you wanted to, but it's a little bit harder because you have to be signed into a different account when you go on, which means you go up here and you go to add, and you're going to want to add that account. So if you notice, I have my personal account, my Gmail account, And then I have our fake students here signed into an account. So when I click on this student, it's going to go to that Gmail account that I'm signed into. So it's a couple other steps, but we do have a couple videos on how to add Chrome files to your Chrome browser.
Can you show them how to add emojis again to assignments?
Okay. So for topics, you could do it to assignments too. So let's say I wanted to have all my reading assignments match this emoji if you wanted to. I'm going to go to the right and go to edit, or when you first fill out the title, I'm going to go to edit. And then if you want, we can talk about Google Meet because I know that's kind of a big one. I'm going to go up here to the front of my assignment, give it a couple spaces, right click, and you should have emojis and symbols. If you don't, you might need to enable like a keyboard through your settings. So up here, this is my emoji keyboard. I'm going to select that same image, and then it puts the image there. And so when I save it, this is going to match those assignments. We do have another document that has login codes and information. I made a bit.ly for it, so it's bit.ly/classroom webinar. This has to be capitalized. This has to be capitalized. It has the codes. I think this is a different code though, so let me fix that. It has the codes for how to get into the Google Classrooms if you didn't have a chance for that. It also has the other Google Classrooms that we had if you want to see how it was set up a little bit differently in there as well. And then it has a space where you could add a question later if you forget about something other than in the chat. And then it also has a link to where these webinars are going to be recorded and left. It will also have a link to the recordings and our contact info. So if you go to bit.ly/capital classroom capital webinar, it should give you this document right here. Google Meet just came out this morning. So this these are surprising things because I was on here at 11 o'clock at night. But it looks like if I go to settings, and I haven't ever played with it before, there's a new option down here. I have no idea how it functions or anything, but it's there. We were giving a different suggestion for how to add a Google Meet link into Google Classroom.
Tina, can you post the bit.ly again? Sorry, I wasn't fast enough to add it to chat.
Okay. bit.ly/capital classroom capital webinar.
You also toggle back to the join Google Meet. So hopefully this should be populating in your classroom. If not, like they literally rolled it out this morning.
Oh, here. Sorry.
Yes, sorry.
Back to the Meet. I wasn't thinking.
We are. That's okay. Don't go to create an assignment. We are suggesting that you guys give your meets a nickname. That is how you're going to be keeping our kids secure. Mm-hmm. We will be creating or we'll be adding some links in here shortly so that you guys can see some of those links as well.
So I'm going to go to material to create material, and we're done for today. So if you feel good, you can hop out. If you want to look at this Meet part or have a question about something else, we hang for a little bit longer. But in material, if you say Google Meet on Friday, I'm going to create a Google Meet with a nickname. So nicknames are words, not codes. So if I know that it is a Google Meet on Friday for my class, I'm going to put Nunez April 10th Meet or something where it is a word that no one else is going to take. I don't think anyone else out in the Google sphere is going to call it Nunez April 10th at the exact same time, but you never know. This right here, no, I don't want to create a material. Sorry. I want to create an assignment. And here's why. Sorry, I just got to the point where I just decided to cough all over. I want to create an assignment because I can schedule out an assignment more specifically than I can a material. So I'm going to say Google Meet on Friday. Holy cow. Come on, you. Google Meet on Friday. And then here I'm going to say we have go to meet.google.com and put in this code. It's not a code, it's called a nickname. But students get confused about nicknames, so I just keep calling it a code. And I'll say Nunez, all one word, April 10th, so it goes together. And then I'm going to schedule this out. Okay, so up here on the top, I'm going to select schedule. And I'm not going to have this assignment show up until like April 10th at 8 o'clock, maybe 7:50. Okay, and I'm going to schedule this for students to get into that meet. The reason I don't want them to get into that earlier is because I want to be in that meet on Friday. I want to be there. I want to make sure that I'm in that meet. So for me as the teacher, what I'm going to do is like at 7:30, I'm going to go to meet.google.com, and hopefully I won't lose you because sometimes when you run two meets at the same time, it freaks it out. When I join or start a meet, it's going to say put in a meeting code or a nickname. I am going to use that nickname I made, Nunez, April 10th. And when I go continue, anyone who uses this nickname right here can get into my Google Meet. So if I get in at 7:30, I am facilitator, I am creator of this meet. I'll just let it go. Some of you guys did that in our meet today. You just came in early and then you like mute your mic and you just hang out and stay. At 7:50, my students are going to get that meet code and they can start getting in to my meet. Now you're going to say, but you scheduled it. How do they know if there's going to be a meet or not? This is where the stream comes in handy. Up here, right here, is where I would say, hey guys, Google Meet on Friday. The code will be in assignments on Friday at 7:50. Okay, this is where I would post this 3 or 4 times so that way students can say, all right, cool, we have a meet, but they can't be in the meet by themselves. They can't reuse a code. If you use a nickname code as a teacher, once you make sure everyone is out of that meet and you close out of the meet, students cannot get back in. If the students say, hey, in 5 minutes, use Mrs. Nunez's code and let's get in there again, it won't allow them to get back in. Did I lose anybody? I can't tell because hopefully, did I kill meat?
No, you're good.
Oh,
You're good.
Oh,
We're down to 87 people. So I'm trying to just see. Sorry, my dogs are barking now. Let me see what other questions we have.
okay.
I think we've covered some of them. So, folks, we have about 5 more minutes on this before we have to jump over to another one. Oh, here's another question. They want to know how to remove a student. So, from a meet.
From a meet? I'm going to go back to meet then. Here I am in meet. If a student is in meet, and as long as you were the first one to get in as with a nickname code, the person who either creates a Google Meet on a calendar or is the first one who creates it with a nickname, you can come in here to people, and when you select a person, I'm going to select director, hi Aaron, and I select him, I can mute him, and I can remove him. Students don't have this option. I am actually not the facilitator of this meet because I did not
remove me.
create
We're
it.
live streaming.
I didn't create this. So I can mute him, but I can't unmute him, and I can't kick him out. But whoever was the creator, which is why the teachers need to kind of be the one who holds on to that that system, they're the ones who can mute people, and then they're the ones who can remove them. So if there's a student that's just like super talking or they're not paying attention, you can remove them. I'd hope that they stayed in, but if at the very, very end, we will have our facilitator start removing you guys. So sorry, but yeah. So that is how you can remove someone from a meet.
Okay, Tina, and a couple of other questions that were asked were, can students answer and or comment, could their answers or comments be deleted? Once they post a comment, can they be deleted?
So if I go to Ivan and I hover over, normally there's 3 dots. Normally there's 3 dots where I have somewhat of an ability to do that, but for some reason, oh, I'm in the student one. Students cannot do it. Sorry. Students can't do it to each other. But usually teachers have the ability to do that. Okay. Well, normally we do, but my computer just decided to freak out. So you go to these 3 dots, and this is how I can delete a comment. So students can't delete comments from each other. They should be able to delete their own, and the teacher is able to mute a student here on the side, and a teacher is also able to mute a student. And when you mute a student, their comment isn't going to show up anymore either. So,
okay.
Sorry if I deleted someone. Whoops.
And the other question, Tina, was, can students, like the way you showed going into the settings, how the teacher could turn off the notifications for themselves so they don't get every notification for every post? So can students, do they have the same capability of turning off their notifications?
Yes. So I'm in the student profile right now, so they can turn off all notifications, which I apologize because you guys probably just got a ton of notifications today. Should have led with that, but yeah, it's cool. So that's how you can turn it off.
Okay. And
I think we're good. We do need to meet with our director here in about 3 minutes.
Can you just real quickly go back? So somebody was asking, go back to the main classroom page.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start there, so when Tina clicks on the 3 dots, if you've built one classroom, that's how you can make a copy and reuse it. And then if she goes, she clicks on the 3 dots, she says make a copy, and then that copies everything that you've done, including the topics, and then it'll paste into another classroom.
Mm-hmm. But not the students, all of the activities.
Just the activities. But I think she wanted to know, can you copy a class layout topics? So can you reuse the topic into, like if you create a topic and reuse it into another class? I think you can only reuse a topic, or you can only reuse assignments. You can't reuse a topic, correct?
I think when it copies over, like this is
separate.
We have 4 students here, and we have 76 here. This is the 3rd version of our webinar class that I just keep copying over. So all the topics stay in the class, and all of the assignments stay. But if you're trying to reuse a post, you're saying to reuse a post, the topic will copy over as well with the post.
Yeah, sorry. Can you go into a classroom? She wanted to try to reuse a post. So can you reuse a topic into several classes? Can you show her that?
Yeah, so if you are in Classwork and I create, let me think if I have an assignment that has a post I haven't done. I can reuse a post. I think I'll find my science class. Oh, please work. Okay, I'm going to go back and select it from a classroom. Maybe. I'm hoping my computer stays, it was not running this slow for the last few times we've done it. So if I go here to this ecosystems lesson from one of my science classes and I go reuse, it might take a little while because that one I think had like a ton of things on it. Well, usually it does it. It'll copy the assignment. Whoa. It'll copy the assignment here, and it'll pop out the topic that was there before. So I didn't have ecosystems as a topic in this class, but it will pull it out here as the topic. If I don't assign it yet, it's just going to leave it with nothing. But if I say, yeah, cool, I love exactly how this is, I can assign it. That's good. One thing I didn't warn about, though, is if you have an assignment and you add something and you accidentally assign it before making a copy for each student, you can't go back and change it, which is kind of frustrating. You can't go back and redo it. You have to reuse you can reuse your assignment and then fix it when you reuse it. But you can't go back to the other one and edit it. It's kind of a weird, quirky thing. So I do have ecosystems here, and I'm going to hit assign. And then when you notice in my classwork, it's going to create that topic that was from the other class. Right here. So it does have the ability to copy the topic over as well as the assignment. But if you don't want that topic, you can just delete it on that previous page. I'm going to delete it here before I forget what I did. Are we all good?
Do you have by chance our website popped up so they could see where some of our resources live?
That is on this page right here. If you went to that bit.ly, down here on the bottom, come on monkey, down here on the bottom, it has all of our links to our e-learning site, the full site, and then where all these webinars are going to be housed, as well as our contact email. And if you have a question afterwards, once the chat is shut down, go ahead and put it in here, and we'll try and respond back to you as best we can if you just keep going back to this document.
So, folks, Hangouts and Meet are one and the same. Google has dropped Hangouts, and it is now just called Meet. So somebody asked that question. They are one and the same. So we are...
Just a point of clarification, Meet is actually... Hangouts still exists in the app form, and we have it listed on our website to actually use the old Hangouts Meet or Hangouts as an alternative for Google Voice. But in terms of online meetings, Meet has definitely replaced it.
I think that's it. So, folks, we have another meeting that we need to attend. So we appreciate you spending the time with us this morning. If you could go ahead and start to exit the meet. In about 1 minute, I will start removing folks from the webinar. Thank you.
I'm going to mute myself. Okay, and if you're not sure how to leave, down here, use that hang up button right there.
Okay, folks, I'm going to start removing folks from our meeting. Thank you for attending today.